talking about love. You got to love yourself. I mean, you got to dig on yourself. Know that you'll be better than bad, in fact. In fact, you got to really know what you're about. We, black people here in America, have been told that we're not bad and we shouldn't love ourselves. And so what I want to do is just talk about us really digging on ourselves and loving ourselves.
Welcome to the podcast. We got Ken. He is the producer of the intro music on the podcast. Say
what's
going
on, y'all?
And we got Cashley. She's the life of the party.
Hey, what's up?
And today we're just gonna have a conversation talking about how we navigate relationships and dating, in regards to race, sexuality, wellness, religion, all the things. So,
yeah.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to share space to y'all? Like when y'all, someone like hits you up and they like let's share space. What does that mean?
So when you originally asked,
I had never heard it be asked that way.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, like I don't think I've ever like been in a relationship where, and
I think my like most recent dating experiences have been like the most intimate that I've had so far. So that's probably something I'm gonna bring probably into the conversation. But I don't know, like sharing space, I guess to me just means like
we all enjoy like who we are in our own time, you know. At least we should, you know what I mean? So I guess like sharing space is like enjoying who I am with you or with someone, you know. And like a lot of times we like feel like we need to, I don't know, be performative in our relationships sometimes. Like who does this person, especially like in the beginning, like who does this person expect me to be, or who would most benefit from being like with me? You know what I mean? And, like I don't know.
Cash, does anybody ever texted you actually like, hey, let's share space?
Nobody.
Or would you like to share space?
Nobody has.
Damn.
Nobody has done that.
Y'all need to date friends.
Honestly, I'm gonna say that I be reading friends' tweets and be like, maybe I should date friends.
Yeah.
Because everybody else out here is not doing it for me. Not doing it.
Like I need some insight.
Honestly, the question came up because I know I've said that to people before, but like recently someone I've been dating, they said that to me, and like it reminded me that like that was a language that I was used to. Because like, so I was dating this other person a while back, and they would always like, hey, you want to share space? And like I enjoyed that.
And it's just kind of been a colloquial thing that's happened in most of the people that I have dated. They're like, hey, you want to share space? And like I appreciated that because it also allowed me to be present, or allowed me to prepare to be present in the moment for whatever was going to happen. And kind of reminded me that like the presence is what was most cherished, right? Like I want to hang out with you, but like I want us to both be in the moment.
Right.
So that's kind of what I got from like, do you want to share space?
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, someone's space is very like, that's very intimate. Like that's very like, you know, not everybody gets to just enjoy you and your, you know what I mean, your aura, your vibe, your space. Like that's something to be protected, right? So I feel like
when you say that like share space, it's very intentional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
something that we're just hanging out. You know what I mean? Like this is something that we're doing together. We're building something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just appreciate the language. I think too,
language is lost today.
It is.
And dating a lot.
It is like, so we have to think about the music that we're listening to. We don't have those like, what do you call it, baby making songs or whatever or courtship songs. And like I'm not really into the whole idea of courtship anyway. But like, just let me know that like I'm not just a body here for you, or I'm not here because you're lonely, or I'm not just here because you know,
Right.
like you actually know person before I like actually am interested in.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm not really a spontaneous dater.
Yeah.
That's why
I don't have a whole lot of like experience with like just straight hookup culture and stuff like that, like Tinder and stuff like that.
Okay.
I have Tinder, like I have Hinge, I have these websites and stuff like that, but like it's more just like an idea to like, I don't know, get a gauge of who I'm out in the world attracting, you know what I mean? Yeah, who I'm on the streets, like, you know what I mean, looking at your boy, you know what I mean? So I know who I'm looking at, you know?
You know what? I never thought about it, but that's actually a good strategy.
Yeah,
I think a
it's
lot of
wrong.
times we can either aim higher or below what actually is a good match for us.
Yeah.
And so, like, I like the idea of using a dating app to figure out, like, where am I batting at? Like,
What's my target demo? Where's my goal?
If I were to match with somebody, am I matching with somebody that I really, really want to match with? Or do I usually get somebody that's, like, in the middle?
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think that's kind of a good way to...
Somebody that's like, oh, this would
that.
be cool. Like, we'll hang out or whatever. Like, I don't want that. Like, you know what I mean? You want somebody that's like, oh, hell yeah, let's, you know, let's kick it. Let's share space.
The dating apps are kind of tricky though, because you know sometimes people can put, you know, people are like
Good on paper.
Yeah. People are like, oh, I want to show this side of me, or like sometimes people are gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna post this or say this about myself because I feel like this is what people want to hear. So I've been on dating apps, but I just really prefer meeting people in person. Because I'm a vibes and energy person. I like to like feel out people's like personalities and their aura and stuff.
And like people's bios are weird these days. Like I feel like everybody's like trying to impress somebody with their bio. And I'm like, yo, what are we doing here?
I'm mad guilty for the weird. I say weird. Only
is it extensive?
It was.
Okay.
It was. And then so I have this thing between my friends. Like if we see each other on the app, we'll like automatically like match with each other.
Yeah.
And like when I say friends, I mean these are platonic friends. And so one of my friends was like, "Friend, why are you writing full essays? Don't nobody want to read all that. Don't nobody want to read all that."
You got like, a whole soliloquy and shit written out on your bio.
I'll read mine real quick.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Oh yes, please.
I think I actually like Hinge because they force you to kind of be more articulate about who you are.
Yeah.
And so there's an intention
like
behind it.
Yeah, the prompts are cool.
Let's see. So mine says Vax because you know trying to stay Vax and safe out here.
Big Vax out here.
Vax all caps and then it has comma heavy all caps because Fran is fat and thick in these streets. And then it says moving to Cali because I'm trying to move out west and like I feel like that's something I should tell people before we link up or whatever.
Like engage in something. Maybe
Yeah,
that
just
might
let
be
you know
serious, like,
what's happening with me.
interesting.
Then I have right now. Right now, I desire care, laughter, and love. I desire to be around kind and considerate people. I desire imagining new worlds. I desire friends. I desire community. I desire partnership. And I just have like my Twitter.
Very wholesome.
Yeah, but before I had like maybe like 8 other things. No.
Okay.
It doesn't let you put all that. But I had maybe 3 other things that I desired. And like my friend hit me up, she was like, "This is a whole essay." So I condensed it. It's a little edited down now. And
I might be.
I took her advice, you know.
I'll read mine too.
I love this too. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Let's see.
Okay, selfies.
You know what I mean? Selfie, fully vaxxed, off top. You know
I'm coming. You know what I'm saying? Pfizer gang. You know what I mean? Big Pfizer.
I got Pfizer too.
Then I got like, you know, obviously my handles, how great is Ken. 6 foot, since that's mostly what you care about. My hobbies include painting, critiquing music, and plotting world domination. And then, you know, the anthem is I get around. So, you know what I mean? I gotta keep in theme with the
I love
with
it.
the app.
Dang,
you know?
wait, I don't have a Tinder.
You don't have a
You don't have a
Tinder?
Tinder?
I need to get a Tinder.
So like I got mine like a long time ago. I actually met my ex on Tinder. We were like in like a long-term relationship, like almost 5 years.
Oh damn.
But I just never deleted it. I just didn't have the app on my phone.
I like that having an anthem song. It's giving
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, my anthem. I didn't say my anthem song. I didn't say my anthem song. My anthem song was Regal by No Name.
I'm educated, fool.
Period.
Yeah, don't come with no bullshit. I'm with that, friend.
Thanks. You don't have a Tinder? What the fuck?
Yeah, are you a real
Never-
person? Like,
Okay,
how does that happen?
because when these dating apps first came out, everybody was like, Tinder's just for fucking.
It is.
And-
Yeah.
And way back in
Now,
the day,
yeah.
I was like not a person that wanted to just hook up or do casual, so I never bothered with the Tinder.
I get that. I would say that transition, because like when I first got on Tinder, I felt like it was more intentional, and that's like how I met my ex or whatever. But now,
Yeah.
the energy is that, and that's why I say I like Hinge, because I
Mhm.
feel like it's just more variety of types of connections you can get into.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, people aren't. I don't feel like on Hinge are like, oh, I'm rushing to smash. You know what I mean? Like, it still kind of has that like a OK Cupid kind of vibe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're still trying to get to know someone
Yeah.
over the internet type of thing. Versus like Tinder's like I said, you just got the face picture and you know what I mean. You know what time it is. I get around. You know.
Simple to the point.
Yeah,
Minimalistic. We love
straight
it.
through. You know what we get.
So you mentioned hookups. How important is sex to y'all in dating? And like, how do you navigate?
It's top 2 and not 2. Top 2 and not 2.
All right. I like that.
Yeah, I'm not even going to pretend that like that's something that we're not going to be like doing constantly. Like I might just be bored and be like, yo, let's just fuck.
I feel
I'm
it.
not doing it.
I feel it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that I have like a high sex drive, but
Okay.
the quality of pleasure is very important.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I've transitioned there. So I used to have a ridiculously high sex drive, and like, I don't think I've ever gotten into a relationship. I've only been in 2 relationships, but I don't think I've ever gotten in a relationship where the sexual compatibility. What the fuck is compatibility? Compatibility wasn't like really high. I've now transitioned. I don't know if this is like a getting older thing or it's a symptom of the pandemic to like a lower sex drive. But like pleasure, what Cash was saying, like the pleasure still has to be like, or the compatibility still has to be there.
Yeah.
And so I would say sex is really important. I think we like to downplay how important it is, but it's just like that is a big component to like what keeps us happy as humans. Like serotonin is released, dopamines, all those things, and so I don't understand why you wouldn't want to center pleasure in a relationship. But
I feel like today it's like the most important part of any relationship, and it's also the part that everybody's like trying not to talk about. And like I don't know, like I said, in my most recent like dating history, that was one of the first things that we talked about on the first date, like straight out the, you know what I mean, like what we like and everything, and everything kind of just has been smooth so far, you know what I mean, since then. So
I like that. I like that a lot.
I think it's important to like straight up just like let's talk about it.
I like that approach. I think that's been my approach since I've actually taken some time to like really invest in intimacy education and like get comfortable and like I've always been a very like I know myself type of person. But I think, you know, I think there's certain elements of insecurity with our bodies and like how sex is how we've been conditioned to perform in sex, right? Think about porn and all those things, and so I think there's this natural awkwardness around why we don't want to talk about the things because we think we're ruining the performance.
And then just like also I think, you know, I have all these other, I got like 18 isms in me. So like I think there's a lot of navigation around what my pleasure looks like. Because of all the isms. And so I think sometimes it can be an uncomfortable conversation to start because I have to worry about I had the craziest date. Like this man said the wildest shit to me.
Let's hear it.
He was like, we were talking about being able to protect yourself. That's where the conversation started. We were talking about being able to protect yourself, and he felt like, you know, women should be able to protect themselves, and you know, it shouldn't always be on the man's job. And I actually agree with that. But the reason he was like, yeah, you know, black women really got it bad because, you know, they stealing their babies, and like LGBT people are stealing babies from black women, and I was just like,
is that what's happening? Are they kidnapping?
I just told you I was queer. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I just be like, wow, thank you for like telling me who you are.
And I think like that compatibility aspect and stuff, like you might pick up on something like that, but you might ignore it
because you're still trying to get to know someone, so you're like, I don't want to hold that against them. Like,
Oh man,
I am not that person.
I don't want to go.
But I feel you. I think it is natural to do that, especially because there's a lot of pressure to be perfect, and that I feel like happened I think that's always existed in humanity. This pressure to be perfect. But I think particularly now we have much more consciousness towards our social engagements and how, I guess, politically correct we might be in the world. I think there's space to educate, and there's also space to hold people accountable. And I think the more that we have grace and understanding, we'll get to the place. Because I think a lot of times people don't even believe what they're saying. They're just spitting out biases that they've heard or they've been conditioned to exist in. And then they also benefit. There's a lot of biases that we benefit from because we're not currently in a liberated society. We're trying to get there, and so. Yeah, but I didn't have grace for that man on that day. That was the end of that date. We were done. Yeah, that was a wild time. But yes, so I guess I'll wrap it up. Sex is pretty important to me. I feel like if I had a top 5 things that I really look for in a quality of connection, is intellectual like mind. That's, I think, the driver of most of how I relate to the world. Like, I really like to analyze and break things down by their parts and really kind of be intentional about who and what and why and the things that I operate in. Sex is also really important. I would have said sex first, but, like, my drive has changed and, like, my relationship to sex has changed.
I feel that.
Religion is something that's important to me because I'm not religious, if that makes sense. So, like, I couldn't be with someone that was, like, extremely religious. Like, that would be a bother because so much of the ways that I connect to religion are spiritual and less fixed that I honestly would just get annoyed a lot. Like, sometimes gospel music irritates me.
Fixed like
I was just like, okay, this is a lot.
When you say fixed, do you mean like organizational?
Yeah, or like I think just the idea that you have all the answers and you know everything is a turn off for me. It's just like, how could we know everything? And so I lean more towards agnostic and spiritual than anything.
The quickest way for me to tell that you're not smart is by you telling me that you know everything, or that you like. Act like
how?
Yeah, like come on, man. Everybody knows we don't know shit. We're all winging it.
Yeah.
Even with sex and intimacy, we're all just winging it. You know, so I don't really like if me and someone don't like immediately have a connection. I don't necessarily hold that against them because I'm like, all right, well, I don't know, we're just winging it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think also people don't realize that a lot of things is not like one size fits all.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
I like what you guys were saying though about like the quality versus like how important how much sex is. I think that's important to highlight because especially like nowadays, like especially I could say with like men and stuff like that, it's all about like quantity and stuff like that. But if you're worried about quantity, you don't really get to worry about like I don't know even the quality of your own like pleasure. You know what I mean? And that's not something that I think most guys think about. They're thinking about all right, next one. All right, I did that next one. You know what I mean? All right, we did the date.
I either smash or I go on to the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like in one of my most recent situations, it kind of felt like it just felt like it was the goal was orgasm. And it was like, as long as we come in orgasm, and I'm a person, you know, that's like more pleasure centered. Like, are we enjoying this? Like, does this feel good? Like, sometimes sex would be like 10 minutes. I'm like, yo, I'm self-pleasure for like longer than this. So yeah, I think pleasure,
not enough
pleasure-centered over like orgasm-centered or performance-centered.
I think recently I've been focusing a lot on presence because I think that is the key that will make it something either great or bad a lot of the times. Like someone could also just not be compatible, but we're so present that like it feels good, right? Because we have to remember we're also mental beings. It's not always about physicality. And so if there's anything obstructing me from being present or them from being present, I honestly feel like we're not giving each other are the best that we can give each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also my like drive or whatever. My sexual appetite has decreased. Naturally, because I think we're all just going through a lot of mental shifts, and so it is hard to be present. But I also know that like who I share connection with and who shares connection with me, I think they deserve that presence. And so I just haven't been having sex that much because the bitch is insane. The pandemic has made me a little loopy.
Girl.
Yeah. I think everybody.
You know, so I don't really like if me and someone don't like immediately have a connection, I don't necessarily hold that against them because I'm like, all right, well, I don't know, we're just winging it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think also people don't realize that a lot of things is not like one size fits all.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I like what you guys were saying though about like the quality versus like how important how much sex is. I think that's important to highlight because especially like nowadays, like especially I could say with like men and stuff like that, it's all about like quantity and stuff like that. But if you're worried about quantity, you don't really get to worry about like I don't know even the quality of your own like pleasure. You know what I mean? And that's not something that I think most guys think about. They're thinking about, all right, next one. All right, I did that next one. You know what I mean? All right, we did the date. I either smash or I go on to the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like in one of my most recent situations, it kind of felt like it just felt like it was the goal was orgasm, and it was like as long as we come an orgasm, and I'm a person, you know, that's like more pleasure centered. Like, are we enjoying this? Like, does this feel good? Like, sometimes sex would be like 10 minutes. I'm like, yo, I self pleasure for like longer than this. So yeah, I think pleasure
Not enough
pleasure centered over like orgasm centered or performance centered.
I think recently I've been focusing a lot on presence because I think that is the key that will make it something either great or bad a lot of the times. Like someone could also just not be compatible, but we're so present that like it feels good, right? Because we have to remember we're also mental beings. It's not always about physicality. And so if there's anything obstructing me from being present or them from being present, I honestly feel like we're not giving each other the best that we can give each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also of my like drive or whatever. My sexual appetite has decreased. Naturally, because I think we're all just going through a lot of mental shifts, and so it is hard to be present. But I also know that like who I share connection with and who shares connection with me, I think they deserve that presence. And so I just haven't been having sex that much because the bitch is insane. The pandemic has made me a little loopy.
Girl.
I think everybody's going through a mental like fog and trying to find their way. You know what I mean? Trying to find their way out. So
that's actually a symptom. Like, a pandemic is mental fog. Yeah, it's wild.
Like I work at a watch store and like nobody knows what day it is half of the time. Like what time? Like
what's today?
Yeah, what's actually happening right now?
I don't know.
Where are we? Are we at a store?
Everything gotta go in my calendar. I'm not remembering it.
Facts. And I don't, I gotta do better.
I have a question for you, ladies.
Okay.
What's like? We kind of already touched on it, but like, what's a prerequisite to being intimate with someone? So not like, not necessarily what qualities, but like what needs to happen. What kind of conversation do you guys need? Like, like we need to hang out first. I need to get like a good idea of who you are, or is it kind of like just for? And I'm not really necessarily talking about sex either. Like I'm more so talking about
for connection,
deciding to share space. Like before you decide to say, oh okay, yeah, let's do that. What type of things need to be in place for you guys?
I think I definitely always look for some level of compatibility, and I think a good way of figuring that out is just kind of asking people about their hobbies and their interests and things that they're into. And also, I sometimes try to ask like a personal question. It's a new practice for me because I haven't always been the best at being vulnerable with people. And so like lately I'll like if they tell me what their interests are, I kind of ask them how they were into that. I'm like, hey, like, did your parents support you in this? Or like that kind of like lets you know a little bit about who the person is and like where they're navigating
what level
from.
Of
Are they the type of person that, you know, has always had drive and ambition because they had supportive parents? Or, you know, they might not have had that and like they have to really fight to be present and show up. And so it kind of like lets you in on like how to be considerate to someone else that you're sharing space with. And so that's something I've learned recently that's really been working out and still working on it because I'm still not like, this is awkward for me. I've not been I haven't been always an affectionate person. That wasn't a part of the love language I grew up on, and so I'm constantly evolving and challenging myself.
Sunday?
Maybe. maybe. I think I definitely have grown a lot to where I was this time last year. So it's just like, damn, intimacy is important, and that's why we're centering it today in the conversation.
But every day, going forward.
Period.
Like that.
You got some prerequisites?
Yeah.
Prerequisites for sharing space.
Sharing space.
Or just being intimate with someone in general.
That's a good question.
Like, where does it start for you?
This is a good question.
What's the play-by-play?
I'm really picky. So.
I am too. I'm picky as well, but I think that's just. I feel like
women have to be at least a bit more picky than men. Like, my perspective is way different, so it's really not. It don't take a whole lot for me personally, and I can like shut it off and shut
honesty.
it off. I mean, straight up, you know.
That's real. I think. Damn, I forgot what I was.
And I usually like tailor my preferences for like intimacy and stuff like that to what my partner needs because I'm so like flexible in that. Like I can just.
You're also a Leo.
I am also a Leo. That's important to stay here.
I feel like you've always. So me and Kim went to high school together. I feel like you always have had this natural empathy around you. So I think that probably stems from that too.
Yeah.
Like I had to learn how to be empathetic, which is crazy because like my mom is probably like the most empathetic person I've ever met. But I think I naturally had this counter attitude towards that because I saw like how she was just like was so taken advantage of. I was just like, no, we gonna do the opposite. And so I used to have this rule where like I was testing people to figure out who they were rather than like letting them show me who they were and then responding to that later. And so now I think it's best to like just just be. You know, if somebody's gonna fuck you over, they're gonna fuck you over. But like I can't do anything to prevent that from happening, right?
Yeah, I can't prevent you from being a shitty person, unfortunately. I feel that.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested. So what are y'all dating styles? I don't think we've had those conversations. So this is great to be happening live.
Yeah.
Very curious.
For the first time.
So when I say dating style, I mean like, are you monogamous? Are you not monogamous? Are you monogamish? Like, you know, are you a serial dater? Are you someone that like dates someone and then like, are you just someone that prefers to be single? Like, what's your dating style?
I think I've been monogamous in most of my relationships, but probably more so for the partner. Like I said, I'm more so molding my preferences to whatever fits for the moment. Especially like
I think there's a strength in that too, though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it definitely makes me more malleable, like as a lover, and you know, be able to adapt. But like when the pandemic first started, I'm like, first of all, I'm not going to be in a room with too many people.
Yeah.
Right.
Secondly,
yo, I was so sad.
Like, like honestly,
the pandemic like
ruined everything.
Fucking terrible for us non-monogamous people, yo. I hate anyways, go ahead.
So I wasn't like, I'm not gonna be in a room with a whole bunch of random motherfuckers, and I'm also not gonna be having sex with a whole bunch of random motherfuckers because I'd have to be in a room to
Right.
do that. So I don't know. This kind of last year or year and a half, I've been mostly, I ain't even say mostly, I've been monogamous.
Okay.
And it's not really difficult for me. That's another thing. When like people say like my relationship style is like one particular thing, me being able to change that isn't really, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on where life takes me. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like talking it through. Like I don't have like a specific, you know what I mean, like a term I would
I got
put
you.
on it.
I got
But
you.
yeah,
So you're coming from the school of monogamy, but you're open, basically, to
I would say
whatever is working.
my sex drive allows me to do whatever. Like I can go, we can do whatever. But
we can do that.
if she's like, yo, I'm kind of just trying to fuck with one person and let's keep it between us and everything. If I like, you know, if I like shorty, that's what we doing. And if not, that's what she doing.
Yeah. I've always been monogamous, and in like any relationship I've had has been monogamous, any like committed relationship. I think over the past few years, I've heard about other friends' experiences with non-monogamy and just like being open and really intrigued, I guess. So I've done my own like research and like listening to podcast episodes and stuff like that and being like, oh, this is actually pretty logical.
What's logical about it too?
I think it's just not. I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
No, that's
It's
no
okay.
fun.
It's
That's no
okay.
fun, Cash. You
Say
have
what
to
you wanna
just
say.
say what's on your mind.
Yeah, I think for most people it's just not natural to like only be attracted to one person. And,
Yeah.
only have feelings for one person.
Of course.
Cause I just like during the pandemic I've done a lot of like self work and focusing on myself and just like reflecting on relationships and now that I'm feeling more confident with myself and like at a really good like level, I guess, of self love for myself, I don't know, I just feel like since I'm like learning myself more, I feel like, oh, this might be more fitting for me to be more open. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's interesting because me a few years ago would have been like, oh, there's no way I'm sharing my partner. And me now, I'm like, oh my god, one person for the rest of my life? That's steep.
That's a lot.
But I'm also like into the idea of like maybe having a primary partner and having like other relationships, or even just like my thing is like I really like to flirt with people. Like I've just kind of always been that way.
I'm a terrible flirter. I hate flirting. Go ahead.
I love flirting. I love flirting.
I'm too direct for it. Like it doesn't work for me.
But yeah,
it depends on the vibe. It depends on like what my mindset is in that moment. I like to flirt, but I'm usually like, especially when I used to work at Urban Outfitters, like girls would come in all the time and I'd just be yapping at the cash register. And after a while, they'd be like, yo, fam, we got other customers. You want to flirt with the next girl so we could get this going? Like, the line.
Yeah.
So,
see, it gets you stuff. Yeah, it's like.
Sometimes it just depends on the mood. Like,
The honesty
But
comes
it's
out.
just,
It gets
it's
you
just,
stuff.
but it's just a part of my personality. So like,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to flirt with people, or like, I feel like if I connect with somebody, this was my thought I was gonna say before. I feel like I've looked back on my relationships and have realized that even though I've been in monogamous relationships, I have genuinely I've genuinely never only liked one person at a time, or like been attracted to one person at a time. you know, and I really enjoy like flirting with people or just like having these meaningful connections, and I feel like there's no reason to deprive myself of having like a good, valuable, meaningful connection with somebody just because I'm like in a relationship with somebody. So I want to, like, if I meet somebody, I'm attracted to them and would be like, hey, I would love to like hang out and just like be flirty or whatever. Like, I still want to be able to do that. Like, you can't do that if the agreement is like, we can only be intimate with each other.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm someone that identifies as non-monogamous, but I feel like I feel like I'm more naturally monogamous, if that makes sense. Like, when I'm really into someone, I don't really have the desire to like build connection with other people. But that's also just because my capacity is really low. I'm an only child, and so like I don't want to entertain a lot of people, and I don't want a lot of people to entertain me.
Yeah.
Like, I would much rather entertain myself most of the time, and then like whoever I really, really admire, like I would love to be entertained by them, and that could be one person or multiple people. But like, because my capacity is low, I'm not a flirt. Like, I don't have the time to be like wrapped up in like trying to entertain people. I guess that's the best way I can put it. I've always kind of looked at it as that. But yeah, I guess I can get into my dating style. I'm non-monogamous, and I subscribe to that because I think that's just the basis of being a human. And I don't mean that to diminish someone that identifies as monogamy, but I don't think we're naturally always attracted to one person.
No, of course.
No matter what our
I feel like
what
that's
we
fairy
desire
tale.
and what we actually are going to go after, and you know.
I feel like people are telling themselves that if they like say, "Oh, I'm only interested in one person all the time ever, and don't ever speak to me about anyone else," like that's fairy tale shit. Like, grow up.
And I'm also like bisexual, so like just naturally, I think non-monogamy makes more sense. I think my preferred I think my preferred type of sex is threesomes. Like, so I spent 4 months. Like, was that maybe 2 years ago, having only threesomes, and that shit was amazing. Exclusively
Okay.
threesomes. I was dating this guy, and I was dating this non-binary person, and like, yeah, it was lit. It was a good time, but also just I think because I naturally I identify as a woman because I feel like I'm constantly expanding upon and evolving what it means to be a woman. But I definitely have this masculine side and this feminine side, and I just feel like most balanced when I'm amongst both energies separately outside of myself. If that makes sense. Like, I feel like a big part of sexuality is like this mirroring that happens where someone sees you, and so I feel like I'm most seen when there's like a masculine representation and like a feminine one.
I feel like we all have like those sides of us, and it just depends on the person whether or not you decide to like tap into the more masculine or feminine like energy. Like, everybody has that energy inside them, you know what I mean? Like, but it depends on you personally, like whether or not you discern, you know, you want to submissive, dominant women, you know what I mean? Like, there's that yin and yang throughout life, you know what I mean? And I feel like queer couples even kind of realize that even the most, I want to say, you know what I mean? Because they have that dynamic, obviously. So I feel like, you know, everybody should tap into that.
I would agree. I had a thought based off something you said, and it's left me. Damn.
You gotta chase it down, Fran. Chase
Said
it down.
I guess I was.
Said brain fog.
Yeah. The pandemic fog.
Anyways, I wanted to hear a little bit more about in-depthly like your experiences around dating. I know you kind of talked about like you're malleable, you're like kind of camouflage, like you'll kind of adapt to whatever is presented to you or whatever works for that relationship
For this,
dynamic.
particular,
right?
dynamic.
So I think the big reason I got into non-monogamy was because I'm intellectual head, and like I really like to be able to analyze and break things down. And so when I was starting to analyze and break things down within my relationship dynamics, I was thinking about so many of the things that I had like suppressed within myself in order to like perform as a woman in a relationship with a man. And like it just didn't make sense for me personally. And then I realized after getting out of that like relationship I was in for so long that person wasn't getting me. Like they weren't getting friend. They were getting what friend thought she was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I think what we do a lot of times in order to have a place in society or in the world is that we put on all these performances that get us closer to those aspects of life that are supposed to be the things that fulfill us.
Yeah.
Like relationships, like jobs, like if you're interested in having a family, like all these things. And so what I noticed is that I wasn't really having these in-depth conversations that are a big part of who I am. And so I think non-monogamy, whether or not you're non-monogamous or not, I think the practices of non-monogamy help connection, period. And so like that's what I've taken from like dating. And so I think I prefer, and this is something I'm moving into, like I definitely am in a space where I'm looking for my partner, like I had it in my bio, right? So I want to build that relationship because I finally decided that I do want to have kids someday. But I will always say I'm not monogamous because I just feel like the language and the study and the rigor behind it, it creates the best connections overall. Like I don't ever want to be in a relationship where like something is off the table to talk about.
I feel like I feel like if you were to ask me, I would say the same thing. I would say that I'm non-monogamous, like as a person, as a human being. Like somebody wanted to ask, "Hey Ken, what's up with you?" I'd be like, "I'm non-monogamous." But no, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I think like being selective too is really good in how you ensure your own like your pleasure is being put at the forefront when you're actually connecting with that person. You know what I mean? Like you don't just like I don't know. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
You're good. I had a question for Cash. So like you're saying that you think you're like adapting or taking on non-monogamy some more. Have you got to experience that? Like, or have you dated more than one person at the same time? And like, what does that look like? Do you talk about the partners to other people? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I haven't practiced it.
Okay.
I had a period of time where I did like two people at once, and like one I got to see more than the other, but I realized that I just really enjoy, like, one relationship wasn't better than the other. Like, they were just different. And there was things that I was getting from one relationship that I wasn't getting from the other. I don't really like that wording, but I like they were like
I mean,
they were.
It is what it is.
They were just different. Like even the sex with both partners was different, and so it's I don't know. But at that time that was happening, I feel like I was still like convinced that I had to choose one person. Like I would always be like, oh, if I had to choose one person, I don't even know who I would choose because I just like both of these people and like I really enjoy them.
For
and
different
That
reasons.
happened to me in the beginning when I first started being non-monogamous. It was like hard to choose.
Yeah.
How did you navigate through that?
So for me, right, I think it came down to I had to recenter, like, again, what things were most important to me. So I think we should always kind of have like 3 to 5 things in our head that are important to like how you want to have how you best want to connect with someone. And so the biggest thing that would lead a lot of the connections I had out was religion.
Yeah.
It's just something I don't think I could get over. Like I feel like I've tried to adapt. It's been a barrier for me in a lot of types of connections, honestly. Maybe that's some healing work I need to do when it comes to friendships, when it comes to family. I think because of how religion works is there is no questioning of it, right? And so like that's the biggest problem for me is because I'm an inquisitive, analyzing person.
Right.
So like if there's
You
an
gonna have
area
questions.
that's like so important to someone
Yeah.
I'm connecting with, but they that's the devil. You can't question it. Like I can't connect with you.
Yeah.
Like that's a big part of how I connect. So that became something that like we did a lot of connections that I might have had some trouble in, like trying to navigate, like who do I choose. Another thing was just like, how do you see yourself? Like, what are the routines that are important to you in your day to day, right? I think some people want to have like one job for like 5 to 10 years or for 20 years, and like they're comfortable with that, right? They're comfortable with just like a limited amount of things, right? I'm not someone that's that way, so I need someone around me that's ambitious and driven as well, like that is always comfortable with changing, is not afraid to change. And so like that became a big thing that was like, okay, what type of what's the word for it? But the frequency, I guess, of like how they live their life. And then like I think the other thing was like how understanding and inclusive they were to other beings. Because I'm someone that identifies as queer. I'm also someone that's unapologetically Black. I'm also someone that, period. I'm also someone that, what else about me? I'm very, very like hell-bent on liberation. And so for me, it's not enough to do the thing or do the work. Like it has to be some intention behind it. It has to be for the purpose of making the world a better place in some way. And so like, I think sometimes, not everybody lives their life that way, right? Some people just like want to be and exist. And I think that's important work. I think that's a part of liberation as well. I think they work in tandem with each other, But yeah, I think those are probably, I think I said 4 things. Sex would be the 5th one. So those things are really important. I think something that I overlooked early on was the kids conversation. Because I didn't want to have kids.
And I feel like,
and I was young, like
we're
a lot of that was
the
like
same
I'm just
age.
not old enough to even think about kids. You know?
Like I'm not even thinking about that right now.
Like it was so wild to me. I would have like, a lot of my relationships growing up, friends were like women, older women, and just like had planned out how many kids they wanted to have and like their names, and I was just like, I am a child. Like, and I think that's a part of it too. I'm pragmatic, so I also like pragmatic partners. Anyways, but it was just like I am not prepared to have a kid, so I don't even desire to have a kid. Like I'm that level of pragmatic. And so yeah, that's changed now. So like that is something that's, I guess, important to talk about. But I'm also open to like it not looking like the nuclear family unit. Like I think we've been conditioned that we have to have our seed or whatever, or it has to be between a man and a woman, or like my partner and I have to kid. Like you could very much have a child on your own, and that's okay, because like you can also like not live with your partner. And this is why I love non-monogamy, because it's just like you get to carve out the world that you want to exist in, and like you get to do that alongside other people who are down for that shit too. And I think that's really beautiful. Have you like you talked about like, so I guess you were saying you mostly engaged monogamously.
In most like relationships, and I'm a relationship like kind of guy. If I'm being honest, like I like doing boyfriend shit. I just like doing.
What is can boyfriend shit look like?
Boyfriend shit is like, I don't know, like, if you got like leaves that need to be raked, or like, you know what I mean, like any type of shit that you would need that, I don't know, some random dude isn't just gonna do, or some dude that you're just dating or whatever. He's not like, oh, let me go take care of shorty, like, you know what I mean. But that's just the kind of person. That's how I think. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let me jump through. Let me jump to it to get something done. But I've kind of dabbled in the non-monogamous like realm and stuff like that. I think for me, the one thing that has to be there, if that's gonna happen, is the communication off top. So if we don't have that level of communication, I'm not even gonna like, you know what I mean, go forward.
If they're not
with
comfortable communicating already, then
we're gonna run into issues all the time. Like, you know what I mean. I would agree with that. With somebody, then oh well, that wasn't what we decided. I don't know what you know what I mean. It's just the whole thing. If you don't have that straight out communication, like, hey, sex to me isn't like, I don't know. And also I feel like guys these days like look at sex as like a collection thing. You know what I mean? Like not necessarily like something that we're sharing together. So like I might see someone, we might have a like genuine connection, like having fun time and stuff like that, and we decide to have sex. That doesn't necessarily attach my like I wouldn't say like worth or like my idea of us going forward in the relationship isn't necessarily attached to, okay, we had sex, now we gotta do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like I don't know. The communication just has to be there, straight from the beginning. And if it's not, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
I feel that. I think something, because so I've dabbled in non-monogamy quite a bit. I think something that I didn't enjoy was that not everyone is non-monogamous that you're engaging with, or not everyone's had experience being non-monogamous. And so I didn't like the mystery behind. So say someone had they were having the same amount of connection with me they were having with someone else, right? We all kind of had two partners.
That's
right?
what I mean by communication.
Yeah. We all had like two partners, whatever. Because that gets important too when it comes to sexual health too. But anyway, so we all had two partners, and one of the partners they had was monogamous, and it's just like, I know like details and like stories because like I'm inquisitive and I want to know these things about this person, but this other person has no idea who I am or anything like that. And so because I'm liking it, and this might be a bad thing, because I can analyze things and break them down, it's just like, what type of connection is this other person getting from you? Because I know you to be someone that needs to be non-monogamous, right? And so it's just like, do they even know the real you?
Yeah.
And then like, how are you deciding who gets to know the real you?
Yeah.
Like what factors are in your head?
Then
And I don't like that. And I think what I don't like is that I only get to hear about this other person when something extremely positive or extremely negative is happening. Because then it doesn't really, I think,
I feel like that affects your energy too when someone's only coming to you about someone else with negativity. That affects like your relationship as well, and you're allowing like negativity to infiltrate that relationship.
Yeah, and what I learned from that was that whatever good was happening should be just as loud as whatever's bad is happening, because that imbalance, I think for one, it's just not a healthy dynamic for how you go about navigating yourself within a relationship, but also how you really get to understanding and knowing someone, regardless of whether or not you have that immediate primary connection with that person. And so like that's something that I've been focused on just in my own work when it comes to connecting with anyone, whether that be friends, family, myself, is like I'm a critical person. Like that's just I enjoy critiquing things, and so making sure that like the positive and the affirming and the care side of things are just as loud as the negative and the critical and the analyzing side.
So I feel like we talked a lot about relationships and sex and sexuality and dating. I'm curious I mean, you know, we all struggle with mental health and stuff like that, especially since this pandemic has happened.
Oh yeah.
So when you are like dating or looking for partners, how important is emotional support, and like what does that look like? And also if your version of emotional support or what you need for emotional support is not natural for that person, are you willing to like give them grace and kind of teach them, or is that just like, okay, this person is not for me?
I think if you jump the gun like immediately, like that person doesn't know you, especially if you're like getting to know someone, right? Like this person doesn't know you. So if you jump the gun and say, oh, okay, well you immediately didn't do X, Y, and Z, we're not compatible emotionally, and I don't want to like, you know, go for it. If you start doing that, you'll miss out on a lot of good people who just didn't know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day. So it's not really like tethered to I guess to me it's all about self-awareness and being able to try. Like if you're willing to try, then I can roll with it. We can work something out. But if it's like, oh well, that upset you. Okay, well, what else is going on? Then it's like, all right, you're not really caring for me necessarily, and then at that point we gotta move on because you're missing out on somebody that could care for you better, and I'm missing out for someone that could care for me better. You know.
I would agree with that. I think I'm still navigating on how to show up for people who struggle with mental health. That hasn't been something that I had to navigate most of my life with, struggling with mental health. And so I think when I started to like focus in on how I was responding, not just to people I'm in a relationship with, but people that I'm also like friends with and family, when I started to like center how do I better show up for everyone, then I got to a place of like actually being able to navigate mental health within romantic relationships. Because I think the core of who we are in every relationship we chose in is going to show up obviously in the space that we're spending most of our time and energy in. And so what I've learned is to really kind of allow the space for someone not to know what they need. I think because I'm so like literal and like pragmatic, I'm like, okay, what
Sometimes
do you need me to do?
Yeah.
And like they don't have the answer, and like I can't be upset at that, and I can't stop trying because they don't know. So I've learned, to allow the space for people not to know.
Okay, definitely need a date, Fran.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that because I feel like there's a lot of times where I'm just like going through stuff and people are like, oh, what do you need? And I'm just like, I don't even really know right now. Like,
And I feel like that's okay too, and it should be okay to like express that. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody says, hey, I don't really know what I need, it's not beneficial for someone to be like, all right, well, how am I supposed to help you? Blah, 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 blah. Like,
I was that bitch. That's what I'm
like-
saying. I wasn't like, how? No, that's true.
Yeah.
I was that.
You playing back
It's like,
conversation.
what you want me to do, man? I'm trying all the things. And I think because I'm someone who has done community work, I have like a lot of resources. And so someone I was dating asked me like, hey, you know where I can find a therapist? I had like shot off like 5 different resources in like less than a minute of a text message. And so I think a lot of times when I can't find the answer to help someone, it frustrates me, and that's how it comes out of like, why don't I do right? But again, I think I've had to learn that like they're not gonna have those answers, and like realistically, like why should I even have those answers? You know, and that is a part of the dating thing, is getting to know and like doing that work. So
it's all about the journey. I feel like we've, as a society,
focused so much on the product, the orgasm, the last thing. You know what I mean? Like, even with the podcast, like it's a process in getting all of this hooked up. It's a process in how we, edit, put stuff through posts and everything, and then you see the final product. And with like dating nowadays, everybody's just like, all right, well, let's get to the final product right off rip. And it's like, there's a process to this. Like we gotta, go through some things, So, I don't know.
I feel like we've been talking for a while, so I want to wrap this up and like, what strategies do you have to provide, based off of all the things we talked about, like what's worked for you in dating, what's worked for you, and like what has someone else done that you've seen and it's like, oh, I really appreciated that happening, as it relates to like all the things we talked about.
I would definitely say communication has been like, so like in my most recent relationship,
Communication from the first date that we went on has always, it kind of broadened everything. So I guess in conclusion to me, as long as we're talking or we have like some type of like understanding of one another, then we'll make it through. You know what I mean? We can make it through. And if not, we've communicated enough to understand that
We're not gonna make
we're
it
not
through.
gonna make it through. And we both know that. You know what I mean? Like it's a clear thing to both of us. And so from whatever we do from that point, it is what it is. But communication is just like the number one thing to me, is being able to actually talk.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like for me, getting to know myself and be honest with myself has been the most helpful. I feel like a lot of my previous relationships, it was just like me kind of making myself small and just like really caring about the other person and just molding myself to be what they wanted to be or what they wanted me to be. And yeah,
I think love just allows for like you to be your most authentic self, and so I can understand why that would be something that's been really helpful. So since I'm such an like analytical person, I had some strategies I wrote down in case I forgot. So I think my strategy would be to focus on what honesty uplifts in our relationships and what you can gain. What you can gain, your future self could gain, and what your partners or friends or family could gain from like uplifting honesty in relationships. And then my second strategy would be to lean into curiosity and imagine who you could become if you met your most authentic and actualized self. So kind of what Cash is talking about, like I imagine like it would look like seeing your childlike self and like becoming everything and more than you could imagine possible, right? Like I think naturally we're curious beings, and like as children we're like trying to figure out like what is the world and like how we make sense in it.
Yeah,
and
what's going on here?
Always having that as a forefront of connection, I think is going to uplift like the best connections possible. And so those would be my strategies.
I like that.
Cool. Love that. Well, I guess that's a wrap.
Hey, we did it. We did the thing.
And so I say to you, black people, we ought to start a 5-year plan of kissing ourselves, just jumping back and kissing ourselves, and then we're going to believe that been bad for a long time, and we're going to get better. The first set I'm going to do is love poems. Love poems of a black woman for her man, and the poem I want to do is called Black Magic. Magic, my man, is you turning my body into 1,000 smiles. Black magic is your touch, making me breathe. Yeah, it'd be about that if you understand what black magic or love be about. Down, 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 down.